Extensions don't damage your hair. Bad application, the wrong application, not looking after them properly is what damages your hair. It is about it looking healthy. It is about it being the best natural looking hair that you can. My whole thing is, however you want to wear your hair, that's your choice. I'm here to help you achieve that.
Welcome to the Hair Edit on this episode with myself, Victoria Lynch.
And me, Ateh.
And today in our chair, we have the super celebrity stylist, Adam Reed, joining us.
Hello, ladies.
Woo! We are obsessed with you, Adam Reed.
I'm obsessed with you.
Victoria, who has he worked with? Who haven't you worked with?
Yeah.
Who has he worked with?
I bet you can't name everybody.
We can't name everybody, but I'm happy for you to mention.
Well, on my notes here that some of your celebrity clients include Harry Styles, but also Madonna. Wow.
Absolutely. Who's making another comeback.
Absolutely.
Which is quite amazing at the moment. But yes, throughout my career, there's been quite a few. My
favourite moment of yours, which lives rent-free in my head, Sex and the City.
Oh, yes, I was on the...
Did you know that?
I'm an extra on the final ever TV version of Sex and the City.
Doing Samantha's Blonde.
I was doing Samantha and Smith.
And Smith
Jared. So,
after they buzzed their hair
yes,
when they went.
Buzzed
so
Smith.
You were actually on the episode.
I'm on Sex and the City. So
brilliant.
I lived in New York about 3-4 years ago, and I used to look after Molly Rogers, who is the wardrobe assistant or head of wardrobe for And Just Like That. I used to do Kim Cattrall, Cindy Chupak, or quite a few people from Sex and the City, and they used the salon that I worked in as one of the location sets, and they asked me to be an extra.
That's what I like.
I forget about that.
Yeah.
Iconic. I never do.
Yeah.
I'm just like, Adam Reed's my mate and he was on Sex and the City. That's what I have to say.
Absolutely.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
It was quite an amazing time to live in New York. Sex and the City, we used to see filming a lot. But for that final ever, it was after Samantha had cancer and her hair was short. And it was her and Smith in a salon. So, talking about saucy stuff, actually, but I was there doing hair and we made it look like it was a working salon. It was brilliant.
Yeah, and obviously over all of that time and the different clientele that you've had in your chair, what have you seen in terms of the trends where there's a massive mixture for length and volume?
Yes, yeah.
And how that has differed and the stereotype of extensions over years as well?
I've always used hair. In my job. I moved to London 32 years ago, and we sort of used to go to buy hair, and it was often the cheapest and easiest to get hold of. I lived in Hackney, so I had amazing stores all up Kingsland Road. But really, I'd say back then, especially in the 90s, it was quite a crude way of applying hair, especially to Caucasian hair. Moving to London from Somerset, I went and worked in a small salon to learn how to do afro hair and different textures of hair. But for Caucasian hair, which I was predominantly working on back in the day, it was wefts. We'd glue them in.
Was it the little black bottles of latex glue?
The little black bottles of latex,
I'm getting like shock. I'm getting like PTSD. I remember ripping out some bonding from my hair once.
Well, I remember, especially doing shows, I remember people coming from other shows with layers and layers of glue in their hair. We, as session stylists, used to try to get rid of it as best we could, but you just didn't have time. And you'd often just see models walking away, pulling them out, and the hair would be left all over the place.
It was a quick fix, wasn't it?
It was a quick fix, and there wasn't the education around it. And really, we were using it mainly to add length. I always used a lot of wigs, and have used wigs throughout my career because it was a bit of a one-stop shop. And a lot of the time it was hiding the natural hair so that it didn't look like you were putting a blanket into the hair. I also, from a timing perspective, in 2010, it was the first year I ever did the X Factor. And it was the year of Rebecca Ferguson, Cher Lloyd.
Oh, Cher Lloyd.
Had Bellamy, the girl group in. And we used to literally take bags and bags and bags and bags of clip-ins. We'd be gluing clips onto clip-ins because it was all about that length.
It was the length. And a lot of people related extensions to length because
bulk,
it was that stereotypical look and result with extensions.
It so was.
But there's been a massive shift in what that trend is now. And just so user aware.
Totally. The evolution of both the education and the quality, it now does come down to quality over quantity. I always say it was quantity over quality. And it was also what we could get our hands on. But I remember people coming in with fine hair and having these huge sort of curtains of hair put in. Also, that's what they wanted. So their inspiration was sewn in hair. It was braiding all of the natural hair away and sewing in wefts. And it used to be such a service that was a bit hit and miss. And because of the customer demand and what we could give, it was a really interesting time, especially the sort of the 2000s.
Yeah, I remember that well because there was a lot of people that used to get them and then hate them cut because they were paid for long hair. But also going back to education, there was a massive gap in that skill gap for cutting extensions.
There was with cutting, but also looking after them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So actually the maintenance, I'd often have... So what I've always done is, especially I've always had a salon. I've done session and editorial. I've done TV work. So having an incredible kit bag of hair has been important. I have always used experts. So again, from a timing perspective, if I'm overseeing, I would have my extensionist working with me and they would focus and I would take their recommendation. Always interesting was a week later when the person in the chair came back and they didn't have the knowledge of how to look after them. They had very big the plastic attachments in the hair.
Yes, I remember the bonds.
People would have little cuts on their hair where they'd been sleeping on such massive bonds, but they'd also let them twist. They would be matting underneath. They wouldn't be looking after them properly. That was one of the biggest problems. And what I've really enjoyed seeing is the education, the quality of the hair, the longevity in the hair.
Night and day from those early days.
Night and day. But also it's how they look in the hair.
And that differs between celebrity clients who want that quick change and shift up of the hair versus the general clients that are sat in your chair that invest in the products and the service.
Absolutely.
Can I jump in and ask?
Of course you can.
I think a lot of price can often put so many people off. Why are some extensions so expensive versus others, and are all of them built the same? You're talking about quality, but price really puts a lot of people off. But why are some extensions more expensive than others?
For me, personally, it comes down to the quality of the hair, which is one of the most important things. It comes down to the application techniques that are specific for hair type, which again, the advancement that I have seen is insane. But the education backing that up. I always say this. I say this with a good hairbrush, with a good tool, with good quality hair. You think about going into a big department store and you know you want to invest in something good. You will look at a higher end handbag. You will look at a middle end handbag. And you will stand and you will look at the quality of the leather, the quality of the stitching, the longevity of that bag, the embellishment that may be on it, how it suits your outfit or your wardrobe. That's what I look for and my customer looks for when they are choosing the technique that they have for their extensions, but also the type of extensions they have. So many people aren't educated. So what they do see is length.
That makes total sense.
But that education as well has to come from the stylist, from an investment point. Now a lot of people
so true.
now don't mind paying that little bit extra
Without
for
a
something
doubt.
that's going to last them that length of time.
And it isn't anymore. And this was a massive thing in salons, that a lot of my clients would find their own hair and bring it in because it was cheaper. And what would happen there is I couldn't do my job because of the quality of the hair, but I would get the blame. Whereas now I'm working with, I choose my brands very carefully. You've worked with me for 20 odd years.
25 years.
25 years.
Quarter of a century.
And I work with tools, product, people that meet my exacting standards. And that's not being snobby. That's allowing me to be the best hairdresser that I can be.
We call that professional.
Professionalism. And
Professional.
actually, it was really hard to find consistency.
Yeah. Which really matters with these products, because your clients have to return every 6 to 8 to 10 weeks for a maintenance, a move up, removal, refit. And that gives you the opportunity to have that conversation with them.
Totally.
Get on board with the quality and realise what they've invested in, but you actually see and examine and make sure your client's managing it well.
And my team.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I have always used what my team love. And we use Remi Cachet in the salon because what my team love is the consistency. And that's what we look for. You know, when we're picking up a colour, when we're picking up a heated appliance, a scissor, we know what we've looked for. And actually, for a long time, we didn't look for that with any additional hair that we were putting into the hair. But what we started to see, and what my team always come to say, is the quality and consistency of the hair with Remi Cachet from me has always been consistent. So I never have to worry. Then for me, when I see them in my client's hair, I am always so impressed with the longevity, that they come in 3 or 4 weeks' time and the hair looks exactly how it did when they left. And the consistency for me is what I look for.
I call it Big Brother hair, but the opposite of Big Brother hair is where you go into the house and everyone looks amazing, and then 6 weeks later everyone looks a bit
Dishevelled.
Dishevelled. You don't get that with you guys.
No, you don't.
No.
And also, what
it's showing up every day. How do you want to show up to the world every day? And you can do that with great hair.
Yeah.
You
and
really
it is
can.
the same. The investment into, and it's what you want to invest in.
Yeah.
But if you see that, if you feel, and it is a feeling, that you've invested cleverly and well, like with anything,
Your return.
Your return.
Yeah.
And again,
Makes
salons
sense.
are changing, and to have a service offering, for me, what was interesting, I've had salons in London for I've worked in salons in London for 32 years this year. I would go where the client wanted or where my team wanted. I am now seeing us returning exactly the same as I would to a supermarket that delivers consistently, to a designer who I love, or a brand that I love. That delivers consistency to me as a consumer. And this is what I'm loving. When a bale of, I call it a bale of hair, that probably is wrong, and that's going way back to when I was a young boy.
That's a very
It's
old
a very
term.
old school, and
I haven't heard that for over 20 years.
Yeah, I struggle to, my vocabulary is very ingrained in my head.
I think we need to bring
Bale
it
of
back.
hair.
Let's
To
bring
me,
it back.
any hair that's delivered is a bale.
A bale.
And when I pick up a bale of hair, I want to feel weight. I give it I don't give it a shake like that. I shake it because you feel the weight at the ends. And this is what I've always done.
It's like sourdough bread.
Yes, it is. It is.
It's like that. When it's heavy, it's quality. It's true.
And again, I think there was a whole movement where people would use extensions to disguise their badly conditioned hair.
Oh,
Yeah.
It probably was one of the worst things to see. And I struggled with it, I'll be really honest, because also me as a hairdresser trying to disguise bad application, trying to disguise hair that's too heavy for the actual natural hair was a nightmare, really. And what I've seen from a trend perspective across the board, especially over the last 6 years throughout the pandemic and after, is hair health being the biggest trend.
Absolutely.
Do you find that, Victoria?
Yes, absolutely.
And it is across the board, isn't it?
There's a lot of overlap as well, just in the industry, with people making choices that are going to impact their hair in some way. Now, a lot of people look at me and don't realise I'm wearing extensions.
What was the first thing I did when I met you? Put my hand into your hair.
Because
again...
Magical.
Well, you would expect me to wear our products, but Adam couldn't believe that I was actually wearing extensions.
Because the quality of your hair is just shiny mermaid.
Also,
and it's what I do with it. As a hair professional myself, I know how to manage my hair well and in the right way.
Yep.
But going back to that hiding bad quality,
well, we used to call it pop idol hair, and when I say everybody will get it.
Yeah.
You remember when Girls Aloud, and they were cool, and everybody looked at them as an inspiration, but they would have nothing here. And we then would call it a blanket.
Yeah.
Hair that didn't move, that hung. You could see that difference in the quality of their hair and theirs.
The weft, you could see that.
Absolutely. And you knew that Nicole Richie, whose hair I'll find this picture of me doing Nicole Richie's hair in the late 90s.
We're going to find it and
we need to put
it's short, and then it was clumps of hair. Yeah. And again, for me as a trend advisor, my biggest trend I would say for the last 6 years is high quality looking healthy hair. However you want to wear your hair, it is about it looking healthy. It is about it being the best natural looking hair that you can. And again, I think extensions and additions and wefts and weaves were always about quantity over quality. Whereas for me, it should absolutely be seen as an enhancement. So we see the whole tweakment movement. That is exactly the same in hair. Even for me, when I colour hair, I want it, my customer, whatever it is, even if it's a blue, in my head, I'm like, well, if blue hair was natural, how would it look?
Ooh.
If thicker hair was natural, how would it look? If longer hair was natural, how would it look if it was natural? That's what I try to do, even from a trend perspective. And that's why when I started working with Remi Cachet, it is about the fact that I don't see the join from the natural to the addition,
which is very modern.
It is. It's seamless. It's got to be seamless to be
in any sense, hasn't it?
It's natural. There's no reason why it can't be. It's got to be the right volume of hair selected, the right colour match, in the right texture, and just to get that transition. But going back to bad quality hair on the client's behalf, I think a lot of that was the lack of advanced in colour techniques and colour quality, the colour products. A lot of bleaching went on years ago.
And dipping and all of the things
and
that would happen.
Over-processing.
But people didn't care. I think
they didn't
Well, it was
care.
because actually we didn't know what was there as an option.
It's all experience and knowledge building and education that just develops and evolves over time.
I totally agree.
But a lot of people, what they used to do...
Because I was called a hair slut by my stylist.
Oh!
What?
He said, you don't care what goes in or out. And it was true, which was hilarious and shocking. But I do think there was we just make it, just put it in. I don't care, put it in. But I think people today have changed. They want healthy hair.
Had the finished look as that was your number one goal.
I didn't care. I didn't care if it was healthy.
And I truly believe from a consumer perspective,
that's changed.
That was across the board.
Yeah, but what they used to do was they used to frazzle the hair even more. They would get the iron. I mean, my day, a week before straighteners, we ironed our hair on the ironing board. They would iron or flat iron their hair into the extensions to smooth it, causing more damage. But they would do it every day.
Yep.
Every morning when they got up, they'd have a top like Wurzel gummidge on the top.
Or they'd
and then they'd
drag
heat
it back and hide it. So then they weren't washing it as much as they should.
But they were applying heat over it and they weren't treating it.
Filling it with dry shampoo
No heat protection.
No heat protection. So actually it was very much a sign of the times.
So we have come on.
Yes.
We have.
You don't have
We've
to
evolved
look.
And we used to get bundles and bales of hair, and it was about the length. It was about adding that length. But again, it was cost prohibitive because good quality hair was so expensive.
This is true.
It was so expensive. And if you actually could find it, the charges were massive and people didn't want to pay for it. So they'd instantly go back to not investing.
Yeah. And I think that whole mindset and understanding of where they do need that investment is it really matters now, and people are more conscious of those choices.
And communication is key when it comes to it. You get what you pay for. But actually there is a whole load of other things that now come into it, how you look after it and all of those things which make a difference.
You blew my mind. People understand handbags, they understand shoes, and it's no different with hair.
It's the same as a glass of wine. And again, I say this to my clients, please think about it. And as you know, I give examples because I think that's how I educate myself. But if you have a cheap glass of wine and an expensive glass of wine, you can categorically tell the difference. The same with a bag. And there are lots of, and again, for me, this is what is amazing. It used to be a full head of extensions, a half head of extensions, a weave, some glue-ins or clip-ins. Rose.
I used to pay by the row.
Absolutely, pay by the row.
Some people still charge by the row. So the pricing model across different business salons and different areas in the UK, the pricing model differs a lot. As a hairstylist, you specifically use extensions for your sessions, your creative looks. I can understand how you get so much fun out of that, the creation. And even though you've been doing it a long time, is there any now that still blows your mind in terms of what you produce from a creative point?
My mind's blown every day still. And again, for me, it is, even when it comes to, say, a totally creative project. I was showing you something earlier where I've been embroidering hair into a frame. You know, having done hair as long as I have and seeking inspiration from so many things, I often look at designers. I've worked backstage for years. I'll look at a pattern cutter. I will look at an embroiderer. I'll look at a beader and think, God, is there any way I can bring that in? Most of the time that is with good quality additional hair.
And on a catwalk, you want it to be impactful. Of course.
So
and even it can be crazy and out there, but everyone, I mean, in some cases, it's forget the outfit, look at the hair.
Totally.
Especially in my world.
Yes. It's so true.
That is for...
We're beauty people.
It's
always hair. It's always hair and makeup.
And do you know what, for me, I'll always look at hair and makeup first because I'll have seen the clothes ages ago.
You're like boring.
But I am like, I want my part in image creation to be as important as every other person's. And it takes a village.
Yeah, absolutely.
Show, even in the salon with me, Sarah, who does my additions and extensions and adding hair, she knows when I say something, she knows exactly what I mean. That comes from working in huge creative industries. You've not seen it yet. I have a thing called a chandelier in the salon, and it is a huge frame of wefts that over the years I'd used and I wasn't going to use them again. And it just hangs. It's huge. It's a metre square, and it's called the chandelier. It shows how important hair, having that as an absolute additional part of my kit, is key.
And have those been used on celebrity clients? Because there could be
I'm not going to tell you.
Museum pieces.
Well, when I
It's like
show
going into
people,
a Hard Rock cafe where you see all the outfits in there.
It's one of the things that people love, but it shows the importance that if I'm going into a hair test, if I'm doing a creative show within the industry, if I'm working backstage at Fashion Week where they want one key look, I need to know that every single model will look exactly how I want them to look, whether that's the same, which when you think back in the day, every model designers wanted to look them the same. So if I was doing a beautiful straight look, I would often use mainly clip-ins, but we spoke earlier about the black glue and the white glue that by the end of Fashion Week, they'd have this all caked on their scalps. For me, clip-ins were good. But if I needed to take every single model to one length, I needed the hair in my kit, because actually half the time it wouldn't be that I would see all of the models before. So I needed to know that I had every colour, every length to create the look that I needed. So it has always been an essential part of my kit. What I have loved and what I've seen more from a creative mind is I'd go into an art shop and there'd be paint. And I'd look and be like, oh, that's what I can use there. That's what I can use there. That's what I can use there. Now, especially with Remi Cachet, the big surprise for me was there is something for everybody.
There is.
And from a creative perspective, that's insane. From a salon perspective, that's insane.
We're doing half the job for them.
You are doing half the job.
It's basically plug and play.
It's tools.
Yeah,
it's like you're providing the best tools.
It is. It is. And you do it in anything else. If somebody, an iron, a straightening iron, you'd know the tech, you'd know that it had been thought of. We hadn't seen that, or I definitely hadn't seen that when it came to additional hair. I now am seeing all of those questions are answered creatively and from a business perspective. It is like a playbook. And having a playbook that has everything that you need from a technical, an educational perspective, because also I love education. So I'm learning things. And for me, it's amazing because I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been looking for this.
It's the USPs of products that you didn't even think of.
And it's
understanding usage and the best way to use them. And But to do that, in all honesty, you need to know hair.
Yes, it's true.
Fundamentally, you need to know hair.
I'm just going to go back to another thing. What consumers used to do is they would look and it was Heat. Okay, Hello, all of those magazines where they were seeing the celebrities, this is before social media.
Yes.
They'd look at what somebody was having and it would be quite a quick, that's exactly what I want, without knowing anything. And us as hairdressers didn't have that education unless you were a specialist. Then with social media, one of my biggest battles is seeing somebody coming in with a reference and I'm like, oh my God, that's a wig or that's extensions and that's this and that's that. Now knowing that it's not one size fits all, but I have every single thing that I need. It isn't anymore the consumer coming in and saying, well, I've seen this, I want it. They come in and they look for our expert advice and they realize it isn't as easy for them to do it at home and it to look great. And again, there's this full circle that they see us as experts. They see that we're using the best. This expense thing as well, because it's been a big question over the last couple of years. Actually, they get worth for every penny they're spending. And it makes it so much easier to communicate the investment over that's a ridiculous amount of money. It's investment.
People get that, don't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if people are willing to invest, that the consumer's getting more educated, how do we look after this investment? You've got your amazing extensions. What's the best way to care and maintain hair extensions?
Do you know what it is? It is communication between you and the pro. Because each, as far as I'm concerned, it is an individual maintenance program for each person. Again, you've given us the guide and the resource to be able to say, actually, to look after these best, this is the brush that you use. These are the products that you use. This is how often you shampoo, condition, and care for them. Because again, hopefully other hairdressers will agree with me here. So many people would have extensions put in and think, oh, I don't need to wash it as much.
Yeah.
So many people.
Thank you very much.
Back in the day.
And it was, wasn't it?
And then leave it until it falls out. That was people.
Or they'd be hanging out, or the extensions would be so far removed that it would be that white gunkiness in the hair. It is about being really, us as pros, being respectful to the consumer. But sharing, you are going to get the best from your investment here. And again, I've seen regularly, I do still see people who may have 5 or 6 tapes left in their hair and the rest have fallen out. And I'm like, but if you understood them, and they're not people that I've done, I see a lot of people that I don't see.
I don't think they get the grip of the tried and tested model. And this is why we're not saying this for people to buy more product. We're saying it because we know through trial and testing and long term that these are the right products to care for your hair extensions.
Do you know, unfortunately, I still do believe, because of the big conversation on social media and more people talking, there are still a huge amount of people that say you don't need to invest that amount of money. You don't need to listen to the expert. You don't need to do this. It is massively changing. But even as an expert, there was a whole period where I was like, oh my gosh, nobody cares about my expert voice anymore, because there are people talking about stuff and a consumer believes that they're an expert.
But they were not expert themselves, or they were inexperienced. And it does make you wonder why somebody would pay plus £500, depending on the product and service, and then not invest £20-30 on an aftercare kit.
Totally. And actually, when all it is for is longevity, again, going back to that thing.
It all ties together.
It really does. But I do still see things of people going, oh, you can take your tapes out and put them back in yourself. Well, maybe you can, but why would you? Why would you choose to do that when actually, for a great investment, think about the time and all of that. Go into a salon, you have your tapes refitted back in, they're cleaned, your hair is prepared, we're looking at your scalp, we're assessing your hair, we're doing everything. And actually what you then get is longevity in what you've invested in. But I'm seeing a massive return. But I return to the expert, and I think that comes to the fact that we have this abundance of knowledge that you're giving us. We've always had it from an electricals company. We've always had it from a product company.
True.
Me as an individual, I've lacked it from extensions, and again, I go with what I know.
When it's the unknown, though, it's very difficult for the right message to land. You need to keep saying it constantly for then people to realise that it's so important. And it goes back to a lot of people many years ago disregarding hair extensions because they damaged your hair. And they didn't damage your hair. The wrong product, the wrong application by the wrong person.
Can we talk about that? Because that is a big wah in the room.
Yeah.
Talking to both of you guys, do extensions damage your hair? If I want to know.
Well,
there's a yes and a no answer to that.
My
thing
yes here is,
I'm going to ask you.
Extensions don't damage your hair. Bad application, the wrong application, not looking after them properly is what damages your hair.
Is it like Americans saying guns don't kill people?
Yeah, do you know what?
People kill people.
It really is. It really is. Because if it isn't a skill to you as a pro, if you are using glue that you buy for £2, or your clips are rubbish and you're ramming them in.
It's all this.
The installation, the deinstallation, the application, the products, the care of using them. Again, think about if you invested in a really expensive product and you didn't use it as often as you should, if you slapped it onto one area, if you didn't take the time, it's not going to work. And I truly believe that is the same as...
And don't blame the extensions.
Don't blame the extensions. And don't blame the... Well, don't blame the
product isn't the fault. The product hasn't installed themselves.
So Victoria, what do you say to people who go, oh, extensions damage your hair? What do you say to those people?
There's a right time for extensions, and depending on your circumstances, I think everything has to be identified in a consultation.
Yes.
If you go to a hair professional or an extension specialist that doesn't offer you an in-person consultation, run and get the results.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Can we have an amen?
Amen. I'll give myself an amen for that.
Do you know?
Can we get an amen? That's amazing.
As you know, I personally, so the reason that I don't apply extensions myself is a time thing. And again, a lot of the work that I do, I have a group of experts who work with me, like any expert would do, any designer, any hairdresser, makeup artist. But I've always relied on the team of people around me who apply the hair to be the best of the best and to want to have the best product in their hand. And again, for me, that was missing. But it isn't anymore. We're seeing incredible sign of the times product and application technique and advice, and it's game changing. My whole thing is, however you want to wear your hair, that's your choice. I'm here to help you achieve that. However you want your hair to look, it should look healthy. It should look like it is the best version of your hair. What better way to do that, especially when it comes to colour, than using, especially with tapes. I didn't get tapes for a long time. And then I started to be like, oh my gosh, I can use them to really lighten up the ends of the hair, to fill out the ends of the hair where, you know, trauma throughout the summer, brushing, not washing, not conditioning, it becoming dehydrated, compromised.
They're brilliant for face framers, especially the injection ones as well.
Victoria, would you expand on for the people at home? Face framers.
Well, naturally, your hair is lighter at the top and at the front than any other part. So they're perfect for elevating that colour around the frontal areas, highlighting that front visual look throughout the spring, summer, if you want, without chemically treating your hair in other ways.
And
but
if
also,
you liked chemically treating
it can be temporary or permanent.
Totally.
And you can
also,
merge
if somebody
the two things.
Wants to try something out, it's a great way. And a couple of my real long-standing clients now have their lighter colour put in with tapes. And they don't have their hair lightened at all. I, of course, have loads of clients, again, as I said, who they'll have blonde put into their hair because they've rested their hair throughout the winter period. And gets to October and I can use additional hair to keep that going. Then their hair health. It's hair health.
It's hair health, for sure.
Whereas people thought extensions damaged, they now allow your hair to live and breathe underneath.
You know, birds of a feather flock together. Your vibe attracts your tribe, and that's
very true.
It really does. Amen, and thank you. You are both beauty royalty, Adam and Victoria. The king himself has bestowed an award, and I'm so proud of you. But as beauty royalty, thank you so much. That was amazing.
A pleasure.
Victoria, Adam.
A pleasure.
If you've liked this episode, please like and subscribe for more.